All right, Shalom is real quick video. Giving all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai by Hashem Rakakadash. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, double honors to the apostles, elder bishops, great millstone, much salutation to the brothers teaching word for the hopeful elect, soon to be the elect, most I will. To the hopeful, extended elect, Shalom blessing. All the sincere, turning back to the Most High. And, this is the Jackson family, and all of them, the brothers on stage except Jermaine, and they, and this is, I'm just making this video to what Hollywood could do to a whole family. They all got messed up. Some couple of them remain, like Tito and Jackie remain kind of, but Tito's in the spirit world, but they kind of remain more normal than others. But, you got to play the devil's game, dance with the devil, you got to make sacrifices too. And, now look at how, so speak, shy these were. Now, they were young, the sisters, Janet Reeby and LaToya, but they're being introduced by the brothers. But look how held back and reserved they were when they stepped up. And she's kind of leaning on her sister. You could tell, like, they're not shy when it comes to talent or whatever, but they're family oriented. So you could tell how Janet leans in on Reeby, her big sister, Then they're gonna introduce LaToya. And they were all pretty women, man. And they got no job surgeries. Look how shy she kind of reserved she is. And natural hair. No plastic surgery. And even with Jackson Brothers, they got natural afros and all that. So, and then, like I said, back with LaToya, she got into Playboy and all that. They all freaks. I don't know about Reeby, but Janet Jackson's the biggest freak, when she grew up. Because there's no counsel. There's no, and they're all clothed and all that. So, it says, envy not the oppressor. This is scripture, and this is the example of how they do all the Israelite families, whether they be in the entertainment world or whether it be regular people. They target us to destroy us. And, now everybody's weird in the Jackson family, and everybody's, of course, Michael Jackson, he's in the spirit world. But this is what happens when you have a natural Israelite family and then you join the devil in his industry. It says, Proverbs 3:31, envy thou not the oppressor and choose none of his ways, man. And that Hollywood game is a big part of the devil's, distraction, the entertainment world, And when he pull you in, they do all kind of diabolical shit. They do drugs and all that. And this is 1976. So, the drugs didn't hit yet. I think it started really hitting the 80s, early 80s. Then you had gangbanging that really hit in the 80s. It was a whole orchestrated hit to take Israel out. And that's it. Basically, almost did. Like Most High said, if it wasn't for the elect's sake, pretty women. They didn't need no surgery and shit. Now Toya look like a damn. You know, I don't know what the hell she looked like, man. Let me see what it says. Who's the oppressor? The so-called white man. Uh, what's that other scripture I was looking for? And then the curses, hit. You know, Psalms 83, King James Version. Keep this. We pull this scripture. Keep not thou silent, O Yahweh. Hold thy not thy peace, and be not still, O Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai. For lo, thine enemies make atonement, and they that have lifted up thy head. They that hate thee have lifted up their head, because they hate the Most High. It ain't no God in we trust, that they trust in their system. They trust in that money, their own image. They trust in this new world order. They trust in the power that they was given, and they forget that it was given to them by the Most High to be the sword, to be the hammer, to be the power of the earth into a short time. And you got our people not there wearing natural hair. If they famous, very few of them, but most of them blonde hair, straightened hair, wigged out, blue, green contacts, whatever you. Very seductive, these women. They have said, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people, consorted against thy hidden ones. Crafty counsels are not going to come out and say, we hate you guys, and even though that's racism. What did Trump say? He said he cared about black people. He loves black people, but it's just all a game, man. It says we are the hidden. They have said, "Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance." So however they can, drugs, get sit in drug dealers to get Jake involved with drug activity, gang banging, get our parents on drugs. And if it's not crack or these other drugs like it was in the 80s, it's these over-the-counter drugs, these whatever they call it, perks and lean and all that. And all this Food and Drug Administration, like it's called, man. FDA. The drugs is in the food. So they take a good, well groomed family. I mean, they're all talented, and even the women think the men are handsome, and the men think the women are handsome. I mean, beautiful, pretty. So, and they, I think even they said Toya was on drugs or whatever. But that's what happened, and they satisfied with that, because they diabolical. Talking about the so-called white man, they're cave, low base people, so they drag people into low base, um, lifestyle like them, because that sex, drugs, and rock and roll that came from them. The average Edomite, teenager Edomite, he gets high and drunk and driving his father, mother's car, whatever. He's in college, drinking and having frat parties, and um, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, man. Uh, so Jake didn't even see it coming. Like he doesn't see any of it coming. Like whatever it deals with, let's talk. The tactics of the devil, and it's still niggas. You see what is happening with Shannon Sharp. What happened to Diddy? What happened to Bill Cosby? What happened to Kanye West? What happened to all these? Some of the, a lot of these prime uh, industry people, celebrities, are going down, and you could see they've been corrupted, and they're no good. So the Most High, hey, put them in the 2/3 bag. These celebrities are going to be destroyed with America. It says, follow not the way of the heathen, do none of their customs, man. And all that shit that they be doing in Hollywood, sacrificing their own people and their children and turning them to their sons into sodomites and their daughters into whores. And the Most High, that's exactly what the scriptures say not to do in Deuteronomy. There shall not be a sodomite of the sons of Israel. There shall not be a whore of the daughters of Israel. And Janet Jackson turned into a straight whore. Latoya Jackson turned into a straight whore. There wasn't no spiritual counsel, but yet, they'll talk about how, their fans and all that talk about how, innocent they are and they love, and she's, and says, the tabernacles of Edom, and which is so-called, wait, hold on. Verse 4, they have come and they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. So our people are everything. They Muslims, they're scientists, Jehovah Witnesses, anything you name under the sun that's not spiritually for us. I think even one time when they threatened Michael Jackson, he got with the Muslims or something, and tried to put a curse on the people that were coming against him, and use cows as a sacrifice. I don't know. You could read that, and I don't think that was even tabloid stuff. I think that was according to real documents. Ice Cube, he got with the Muslims. Tupac got with the Muslims. Fruit of Islam. So that's not our customs. That's not our religion, if you will. And Islam is a religion. So I don't even know how our people can buy that bullshit. It says, so that's what they do. They do it by division. They do it with drugs. They do it by, keeping our people in a poor state, setting up negative influences, such as these celebrities, and who knew what they will become, That's why the Most High said, let patience have a perfect work. Wait, hold on. They about to get evil. They're about to turn into some, crazy ass, demonic, people. And Janet Jackson got that influence. A lot of these whorish women, like they, Cardi B and Lil Kim when she was out, she's more old school. But Suki Hunt and them and Sexy Red, they all know about Janet Jackson. They grew up wanting to be Janet Jackson. You know, one of her first songs is Control. Like I'm in control. When I was 17, I let people run. My parents run me. Now I'm all grown up. You know, and then she made a song called Nasty. You know, uh, Miss Jackson, if you nasty, whatever. She was always like they even let her be seductive as a young girl, but nobody. But just because they're famous, nobody says anything. You know. Meanwhile, the prophets are getting stones thrown at them. You know, like we the worst people in the world and shit, man. And the more our people gonna get judged for that. You know. Remember Jacob's trouble, man, and remember a lot of this stuff is Most High gonna start letting it play out. And during Jacob's trouble, man, the beasts is they already doing it, changing their location. So you're gonna have all kind of beasts among you in different places: lions, tigers, leopard, bears, and all that. And they're gonna be hunting Jake. You know, just like the Most High sent lions among the heathens when they were implemented in Samaria. You know, if you disregard Most High's laws, he'll get your ass, man, one way or the other. And these people, they suffering inwardly. And they're not telling anybody, but they it said, "Give me any plague but the plague of the mind, heart, which is your mind." They conflicted in their spirit every day, because they can't they can't be perfect, which a lot of these women are taught in a young age that you know beauty is perfection, and to strive for that, and so that's why they get plastic surgery. That's why they in the mirror 24/7. That's why they're you know um, if they can't be like a perfect in their outwardly body, they get fat and they weigh like 300 or 400 pounds. They gonna find beauty in it somehow. Oh, BBWs, big beautiful women. You know, ain't nothing attractive about a 300, 400 pound woman. Even 200. I mean, women's supposed to be alike. Like I said, if there was such thing as a wedding, you supposed to be able to pick your woman up like they, that's how they did in the movies. You know, and take her to the limo, whatever. We don't get married like that. You know, but it has some attributes of a real marriage, but that's been corrupted too. You know. Um, so you got they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, the so-called white man, which is the red man, and the Ishmaelites, the Arabs. And you see all these people of these people mentioned here. They set up in the neighborhoods. They set up in Jake's poor neighborhood, taking their money. You know, uh, these of Moab, the Chinese, Hagarenes, Africans, Cabal, and Ammon, Japanese, and Amalekites. Amalek, which is who they call themselves Jews, they're not synagogue of Satan. They're not. They're Jewish people that Apostle referred to them as small hats. They they're our main enemy. They're the ones that's controlling this world through systematically through military and economic power. You know, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. So the Africans and Asher also is joined with them. These Elamites, they have hope in the children a lot. Salah. So that's who's in the neighborhoods taking Jake's money. Like I said, they used to have Korean, stores, and they sell liquor to Jake, and they sell the gangbang clothes, the bandanas, the red and blue, and the Dickies and all that. It used to be right in front of right in the store. You know what I'm saying? So they encourage that behavior. You know, they encourage the wickedness behavior of Jake. You know, so they want us destroyed. They want us to be completely under their submission to, also do diabolical things like them. You know. Let me see. Follow. My people seduced by the heathen. King James version. It says Ezekiel 39:23, and the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their. It says Ezekiel 39:23, and the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity. So that makes it different from the heathen, man. But now it says, follow not the ways of the heathen. They're accustomed to the heathen. They are vain. They cut a tree out of the forest and deck it in with silver and gold like this Christmas shit, like these other holidays. And these people that become our people that become celebrities, they're all into the birthdays and into all this wicked ass harlotry, this holiday harlotry stuff. And they please the people. Like when they come out with an album, they back then they used to thank God, but they wasn't really, they it was all an act. And now they don't do that no more. And who's the main people they thank? The fans. Or if it wasn't for my fans, I would be, I wouldn't be in anything. It don't put God in there no more. You know, so they men pleasers. You know, so if you nurtured by a company or you develop, they got artist development and all that. And a lot of these artists, when they say they join the industry, they become, an artist through these companies, all that. They realize that they can't wear what they want to. They can't, because these companies are fashioning them after what used to be successful, to where they want to renew that, so to speak, and say, well, can you, when Janet Jackson finished her career, they get another female, and even Ashanti reminded me of kind of like Janet Jackson. They said, can you be like her? She got the light voice, she kind of had that look. So they model, they continue modeling these same people, and that's kind of like America. I mean, that's what they do with Rome. They model themselves after Rome. So they in a heavy practice of knowing how to do that, choosing the right people, that will comply and desire to become stars and famous and in front of TV and doing interviews, you know, and they mold them. Because that's what Janet said on her first album. I let my mother mold me. But now I'm all grown up, I'm in control. And she was young when she came out during that time. It says, because they have trespassed against me, therefore hid I my face from them and gave them into the hand of their enemies. That's why we are in the hand of our enemies. So fell they all by the sword. So, you know, and that heathens are starting to know by the prophets. Like we're telling them, yeah, Moab, Moab is a superpower. You know, Edom is a top superpower. And Moab and all these other nations. You got these nations coming over here and looking at you like you ain't shit, and you've been over here you were born here. They come over here, get citizenship somehow. And that's a man. That's evil as hell. You get calling, you get the immigration deportation. and you call them illegal aliens when they were here before even you, and then you let these other nations, they let these other nations come in and have citizenship, and they're not deported. Yeah, what about them? You know. But it just says, I'll start to close out. I don't want to make this. According to their uncleanness, and according to their transgressions have I done unto them. Sin is transgression of the law, and hid my face from them. Therefore, thus said the Lord God, power. Now will I, Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, now will I bring again the captivity of Jacob and have mercy upon the whole house of Israel, and will be jealous for my holy name. You know? After that, they have borne their shame in all their trespass, whereby they have trespassed against me, when they dwelt safely in their land, and none made them afraid. When I brought them again from the people, and gathered them out of their enemies' lands, and am sanctified in them, and in the sight of many nations. Then shall they know that I am the Lord their power, which caused them to be led into captivity among the heathen. But I have gathered them into their own land, and have left none of them any more there. Neither will I hide my face any more from them, for I have poured out my spirit upon the house of Israel, said the Lord. And what's one, Lord, Yahweh, what's one way he's showing his face that he's in our favor again? By sending prophets among us. But what did Jake do? They have denied the prophets, stoned the prophets, old Jerusalem or Jerusalem, them that killed the prophets. So, you know, like I said, they'll take a basic Jake family, and that's the net that they put up to cause Jake to go into. Like, you know, they make, you know, all this poverty stuff. Of course, the curses given to the hand of our enemy, and they forward the affliction, and they add on and contribute to the affliction, and they say, well, you know, play by our games, play by our rules, you know, and you got the industry, and then you got to, you know, these are doorkeepers, and you got to go this way to get that, and get, you know, sign a contract by blood or what have you, and make sacrifices. You got to, you know, do what we say do to be this big star. Unless you're just a nigga, you're just, you know, you'll remain in the ghetto and the slums. Because all these bases are covered. Like the sports, you get in the football, same contracts by the Edomites. You get in, and Moab is not making contracts out to the so-called black men, so-called black women, Latino men, Latino women. You know, you get into basketball, same thing. You get into Olympics, same thing. Boxing, same thing. Rapping, music, entertainment, acting, same shit. And they control it all. So, you know, that's what they do. And like I said, you know, they had the American dream with the Jacksons, and look, it turned out to be a nightmare. Michael Jackson ended up being killed, you know, because he was trying to own the beat. I think he bought the Beatles catalog. He was trying to get it back or whatever. He's saying they was liars and they devils, and Prince, same thing, and you know, but you know, and then they get caught in scandals and stuff like that, and you know, it's just a crazy ass, you know, thing, man. But like I said, this was a normal family with talent. Can't take that away from them. But they entered this industry where it turned them into, you know, turned them to what they are, what they have become, and you could see it, you know. But you know, you do got idol worshippers that they can't see that, you know. You say to the seers and prophets, get thee out of the way, you know. Lest you prophesy deceits and smooth things, we don't want to hear that. You know, we want to hear these are queens. Like the apostles always say, look up what queen means. You know? So, That's what they do. Turn a average, you know, family, good looking, wholesome family of Hebrew Israelites, and they turn them into what they had become, you know, and they take our talent and use it, you know, and drain the spirit out of us. You know, take our daughters and make them whores, and take the men and make them into moles, you know, into sodomites. So that's their agenda. Another type of way they attack Israel and keep them from, you know, the name of Israel and from their remembrance, distractions and all these things they can get caught up in, you know. So anyway, I didn't want to make this too long, man, but it ended up being longer than I thought. But yeah, you know, even just like I said, going back to the women, pretty women, and what happened to them, you know, all nice, so to speak, natural, and now they all bugged out. They all fucking bugged out. You know, Reeve, she kind of is the, you know, only normal one today, so called, whatever. But yeah, you know, the American dream is over.